Man, I missed that intro. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is season 13 here in the LEG 2021. Finally, it's officially football season. That means it's fantasy season. I'm your host and commissioner, John David Gray, and we already have a lot to get to today. It's a big show packed with the draft review. We're bringing on the former champ as per tradition, but we have breaking news as of right now, anyways, when this was being recorded. Cam Newton of the New England Patriots is no more. He has been released by the New England Patriots. Apparently, Bill Belichick got tired of putting up with that. I can't imagine why, but Cam Newton no longer Patriots. Looks like it's the Mac show there in New England moving forward. So big fantasy ramifications. What is that going to impact for the receivers? We have no idea. Not like anybody really drafted any New England receivers minus the tight ends anyways. But also, a reminder for this year, we are moving. The schedule now has 18 weeks. So, the NFL schedule has 18 weeks. That means we get an added week as well. So, we move from 13 games to 14 games for the first time ever. Or as Jason Servos is accustomed to, junior high to high school. 13 to 14. So, there we go. Pedophile joke for Jason. All right, so, as I mentioned, the draft just happened last week. It was great having everyone there, minus the COVID kids with Mick and Mccready. Godspeed. We missed you guys there, but Nick Shook hosted the draft. It was a huge success, and we're going to talk about some huge successes here with the champ, Mr. Austin Stoll, for this week's One-on-One. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Austin Stoll, the two-time champ, coming to grade the league's draft. Mr. Stoll, how have you been since your second championship?
Great. It's always good to win. It's always good to be a winner.
Yeah, now I remember you told me you would be a dominant force in this league before you joined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, it's kind of like the league, I think, except it's with one of the guys' wives, right? She helps him draft and he does really well, and then she just ends up joining the league and like crushes everyone. Kind of what happened. I helped you and you did well. You didn't win, but I didn't draft for you exclusively. I just helped you here and there. And then I leave, you get worse, and I win twice. So it makes sense.
I was the number one team pretty much all year last year without Christian McCaffrey. I don't want to hear it. You got lucky this season, buddy.
Okay.
Well,
so did you win as the number one team? I'm sorry.
No, because
didn't you win the Hoffa last year too?
I did win the Hoffa a couple years ago. Yes.
Oh yeah, it was pretty recent. Anyway.
That was also a fluke.
Interesting.
You won the Hoffa too. You won the Hoffa your first year. I don't want to hear it.
I did, but you can understand how mine is more of a fluke because I've won 2 championships in a row, which has only been done one other time.
Yes,
so.
That is correct. Let's see if you'll be the first ever back-to-back in LEG history. So with that championship prowess, that championship knowledge, I figured I'd bring on Professor Stoll to grade this year's draft, just like he did last year, as per tradition. Let's start at the bottom tier. Let's start off with a Hoffa winner, David Mccready. I give him a better grade. I don't think he was that bad of a draft. You did get Mahomes, Kittles and bits. And those were pretty good picks, but Zeke Elliott, you're a Cowboys fan. You know that's a toss-up. I don't know. I'm feeling like a C-. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Zeke will be really good this year with Dak back, and he understands the issues that he had, so he'll be good. The question mark is Raheem Mostert, Odell Beckham Jr. Can they stay healthy? I mean, like they're both really good when they're healthy, but they've had health issues, for the past couple of years at least.
Right.
So those are the 2 question marks I would say, and then the receiver depth afterward is kind of sketchy. Tyler Lockett's good. Cortland Sutton. I think Teddy Bridgewater's starting, so maybe we'll see what happens. I love Devontae Parker. He won me my first championship. Picked him off of waivers my first year winning, and he scored like 20 points for me every single game I had him. So we'll have much love for him, but you just never know with, that was Fitzmagic throwing to him, just heaving bombs all game long. Now I don't know if Tua's going to do the same thing. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of question marks on there. Drafted Jalen Smith really early. I think he's going to be very shocked about that. Jalen Smith, I don't foresee playing very much. So
what do you give Mr. McCready as a grade?
Oh gosh, I would say like it's very top heavy, but the top heavy is good. I think I agree with you. I think like a C- is the lowest C, and it's being held up by his top three in Kittle, Mahomes, and Elliott.
Yahoo gave him a B-. So they like his team for some reason. I'm indifferent, very kind of middle of the road. We'll see. Some injuries will play a factor. All right, let's move on to Nick Shook and the Sons of Shane Falco, former Hoffa winner. Only won 3 games last year. How did Shook look this year? Again, he kind of already off to a bad start. J.K. Dobbins, done, down for the year. And Alvin Kamara, though, was his number 1 pick. So obviously he's got a tier 1 player no matter what, unless now that Jameis Winston is the starting QB. Is that going to make a big difference for Alvin Kamara? I don't think so. If anything, I think he's going to get checked down a lot more with Jameis because he's not going to want to throw 30 interceptions again. He knows not to do that.
I don't think Sean Payton will let him do that.
Yeah, I don't think Sean Payton will let him do that either. His wide receiver core to me is his weakness. Josh Allen, great quarterback again, one of the top, went early as expected. I kind of feeling because before the injury to Dobbins, I won't count that against him because he was healthy. I give Nick a solid C on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree. Again, Josh Allen will carry this team. I think A.J. Brown's a great pick. I think Brandon Ayuk is a sleeper pick. That's a pretty good one. And Alvin Kamara, I think, will just have an expanded role with Michael Thomas down. Wild card, Trey Sermon. It's got a little crowd. I mean, we just got done talking about Raheem Mostert on the same team, has proven himself. So, I've heard really good things out of camp from Trey Sermon. So I think it's only a matter of time before he takes that spot. I do like Curtis Samuel on his bench. I think that'll be an interesting pick just because Ryan Fitzmagic just has a knack of making things happen. And then Ronald Jones II. If Trey Sermon doesn't pan out, if Ronald Jones II does what he did last year with Tampa before he really bummed out his hand that stopped him in the playoffs and let Leonard Fournette in, I think it'll be okay. I think he's got a lot of wait and see guys with Zach Moss, Ronald Jones, Trey Sermon, a lot of the running backs. And then Tyler Higbee is, I would say, probably coin flip. But I think, with Jared Goff gone and Matthew Stafford in, I think every Rams receiver or pass catcher, their stock should go up because Stafford's a better quarterback under Sean McVay. I think they'll do a really good job in shining. And the Rams are always out to win, so they're always making moves to win. And so I think that'll be good.
What's your grade?
Yeah, I think
C.
I think C. Yeah, just because of his uncertainty.
Yahoo gave him a C+, so we're in agreement. So improvement for Shook. Too bad about JK. All right, let's talk about Modelo virus. Jabel Soul, he got the worst grade from Yahoo, a D. I don't think he drafted a D team, but it's kind of close just because there's a lot of question marks on that team. Tom Brady's his starting quarterback. I just don't think he's going to have that great, and I have another unstable internet connection again. Dalvin Cook, good, right?
Yes.
Allen Robinson, good, right? That's a good pick. Adam Thielen, maybe. He's not the same guy he was 3 seasons ago. And Antonio Gibson at running back is still a question mark for me. I don't even know what that offense is going to look like in Washington. But I'm going to give Jabel a C. I'll give him a C, a bouncy C. What do you think, Austin?
I think a C's fair. Just because Tom Brady, while he's very good, obviously proven track record, He's not as points flashy as some of the other quarterbacks, right? Like Josh Allen or whoever else. Like Tom Brady's not going to put up big 45-point games like some of the other guys do.
Right.
And I agree with you. He drafted Allen Robinson, so that automatically means he's not winning anything. We've already had this conversation. Servos knows firsthand, especially trying to defend it and then finishing somewhere beneath me. So,
but not Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson did finish as a top 10.
With that, defense is pretty good. Always get up those points there, but his bench I feel like is a little thin across the board with the different positions. You just don't really know what we're going to go. Michael Gallup maybe his best bet, but there's a lot of competition in that wide receiver room. So I think it's fair. It's comfortable, but there's just some big, coin flip guys that they'll either do really well or maybe they won't have a good game, and those kind of things matter in this league. And
right.
You're frozen.
There.
Oh, no, there you are.
Hooray. Yes, I caught some of that as we're experiencing that. There's a storm going on, which is why it's a Hurricane Ida is coming through here, I think.
Right.
So, yeah, Yahoo gave it a D. Let's go to a team that finished not so well this year that looks to be a contender once again. That's Mick Barton's team, BDM Energy, Big Dick Mick Energy. Yahoo loved his grade. They gave him a B. I'm even going to go higher than Yahoo. I'm going to give him a B+ for Mickey Boy. I love a lot of those picks. He was number 1. So, of course, he got Christian McCaffrey. Of course, this is going to be the year he's healthy, and I'm going to be really upset about that. But also paired with Carlos Edwards-Helaire, or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Those are his 2 running backs, right? With Kyler Murray as a quarterback, Scary Terry wide receiver, and Debo in the flex. His weakness, we were just talking about it, tight end. I don't like the tight end, but other than that, even on defense, he's solid. I give him a B+. What do you think, Mr. Stoll? Higher or lower?
I would say B-.
Okay.
I think Kyler is very flashy. I think it's a solid pitch to score running the ball. Hopefully another year he'll be more consistent. I feel like he was a little bit up and down in the fantasy realm, kind of feast or famine. Not to the point where it was really, really poor, but I feel like with the quarterback, you're only expected to get at least 25 to 30, maybe 35 points. I think Kyler hit below that mark a couple times. And I think just the offense kind of stalls out and needs momentum. So, but I think Kyler's pick. So, just hope that's working. I think the biggest question mark is probably a tight end, 1, and 2 is wide receivers are a little bit feast or famine. I think Terry McLaurin, he's an easy number 1 in Washington. I think that's a good pick. And I think really any pick on Washington is almost a sleeper. I don't think people expect much from them, but I think they'll be pretty good with experienced quarterback at the helm and a little bit more weaponry. Robbie Anderson I had last year, very feast or famine. He is a bit of a deep threat. You don't know how Sam Darnold's going to do down there in Carolina. He was feast or famine for me. He would do either really well or he would be non-existent. DJ Moore's the number 1 there. And he's also got Christian McCaffrey. So, something's stealing from something here. That's not exactly the greatest helping, but I understand it a little bit. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, hopefully he's back for good. The league's more exciting with him playing. Will always be stellar as long as he's healthy. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is actually more toss-up than I think people really want to say about him. I think the Chiefs' offense is just so dynamic that while Clyde Edwards-Helaire has definitely had a couple of games where they just fed him and got him involved. You have Patrick Mahomes, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Travis Kelce. It's really those 3 guys that make it go. And so Edwards-Helaire can be feast, famine. And I think he's injured again. I think he did something with his ankle. So hopefully he's fine. But Again, he's been a little bit banged up since the title game against Clemson. So that'll be interesting to see what he's got there. And then, again, I just talked about the tight ends, Evan Ingram. Who knows what he's really going to be able to do with Danny Dimes out there. So, we'll just have to see. And I think his bench is a little bit short. I think if DJ Chark can come back, he has been, from what I heard, the number one. So if he can get him back in the lineup, I think it'll be stronger. So overall, pretty. Hopefully James stays healthy. Love him. He's so exciting to watch. Hopefully he stays healthy and we can watch him. And he does score a lot of points. He is all over the place. So I'd say B- just because I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire can be a toss-up, especially since I think he's injured again. He's a little bit banged up. Evan Ingram, then don't know. And then Robbie Anderson right now being coupled not only with Chris McCaffrey, but feast or famine. So B-.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on to New World or Creaky. And now we're going to call the lightning round because it's like my internet got hit by lightning. So we're going to try to do this as quick as possible. So David Plow, New World or Creaky, very mediocre last year. Looks to be very mediocre this year. Yahoo gave him a B. I give him a C. Aaron Rodgers, maybe, revenge year, but no running backs. Mixon and Swift up in the air. Pitts at tight end is probably his biggest potential. I give him a C. What do you give him?
I would say C+ or maybe even a B-. I think he's pretty solid across the board in his stars. Stephen is massive. He helped me win a title last year. Great target for Josh Allen. The first receiver he had over 6 foot. So it panned out really, really well. So I think Stephen Diggs is going to be tremendous again this year. So he's really good. And again, I talked about it earlier, Matthew Stafford taking the reins in LA. Robert Woods' draft stock, I think, goes up. I think he's going to be really good. As long as Joey B stays healthy and as long as Joe Mixon stays healthy, I think Mixon's a good pick. And I think DeAndre Swift is now the clear-cut candidate as long as he's healthy. In Detroit, Adrian Peterson, Breon Johnson gone. So I think there might be someone else now. It's a rotating door in there. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is that kind of guy that will score you the big points. And so, I think I really like his starters for sure. And I think you just don't know with Melvin Gordon if that, I don't know what Denver's going to do. I think Jalen Hurts is a good QB too. I think Christian Kirk can be interesting. We talked about it with Kyler Murray. They're just very, they flash in the pan or if they find more consistency. But I do like Tyler Boyd. I think he's stepped up. And then I think Kyle Pitts is going to be really good in Atlanta. So paired with Calvin Ridley, I think he's going to pose a lot of problems. I think he is NFL ready. So, I'll go ahead and upgrade my team just because starters are really good. And while, obviously bench is hard to fill, I think he's got some pieces that he can swap just depending on what happens. So he has a good team.
Okay. Agree to disagree. Let's move over to Alan Nessen's team. Nessen only got a C draft grade. I think he did a little bit better than a C according to Yahoo. Quarterback, that is the position that scores the most points, and that is where he is the weakest. He waited a little too long at quarterback and forced to go with Matty Ice, who once upon a time was a fantasy QB option. But great receivers in DK and Deontay, great running backs in Derrick Henry and David Montgomery. That's a solid lineup. Noah Fant, but Jerry Jeudy in the flex. So I'm going to give Nessen a full grade up. I'm going to give him a B. What is your lightning round analysis, Mr. Stoll?
I would say C+. Derrick Henry will be the horse of this team for obvious reasons. I think Matt Ryan, like you said, feast or famine. Deontay Johnson's just going to be at the whim of Ben Roethlisberger. Who are you going to get this year? I don't know. Hopefully he's better. Honestly, if we cut at least number 1, number 2, Juju, or Chase Claypool kind of mixed in there. I don't really like the David Montgomery pick all that much. I feel like he's very feast or famine just because the Bears are very feast or famine on offense. With quarterback changes, if Justin Fields is in there, maybe different. I just don't know. taking targets away from each other. No offense, Jerry Jeudy. That just never really works out all that well. But the thing is, his bench is really sort of strong, I think, with Laviska Shenault Jr. Mike Williams, I think, was a great pick. I mean, he can easily slide Mike Williams into the flex spot if Jerry Jeudy doesn't do well, just because we don't know what Denver's going to be. And then he's got strong defenders, guys that put up a lot of points. You know, he was the one that started the defensive draft training. He is in his logic that a very, very strong defensive player can score about the same as a wide receiver too, running back too, if they're not seeing a lot. So probably not as high as maybe C plus for me.
C+. Okay, moving on to Servos. Also got a C+ from Yahoo, speaking of Logan Thomas, he drafted. Servos this year to me was more of a threat in the late rounds. I thought he made some really good late round picks. Just kind of maybe some sleeper picks like Justin Herbert at QB. That could be huge. That guy is potential to be the next Dan Fouts out there in LA. And with Austin Eckler at running back, Miles Sanders, I'm kind of iffy on that. So I'm giving him a B-. And with Kareem Hunt in the flex, I think this is the year where Chubb just kind of really goes far beyond Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt just kind of becomes a third down only long passing situation back and doesn't have that big of an impact as he did last year. What are you saying? I give him a B- for Servos.
I think I'll agree with you. I think Justin Herbert's great. I think he's going to kill it this year. Tyreek Hill, we already know. Mike Evans, I think he's always been like either boom or bust, but I think it's more steadily boom with Tom Brady. But we just kind of talked about Tom Brady not being like this huge point getter. I think Tampa Bay is so diverse that it could limit Mike Evans. I think they built really good chemistry though. So of all the Tampa Bay receivers, I think Mike Evans is the better one. I love Austin Eckler. I'm hoping he stays healthy. That dude could be like I think he could be just below McCaffrey because he's so diverse out of the backfield with pass catching ability. I think that was a great pick. I was eyeing that pick myself on the wraparound before he was snatched up. I think Logan Thomas is a good one. That was another guy I was looking at on the wraparound just to stash. Miles Sanders, he had him last year, boomer bust. I actually tried trying to trade for Miles Sanders. He opted to keep him, and then I think it was as the Eagles' offense kind of went downhill. Obviously, I think Miles Sanders was hurt too, so a little bit. I agree with you, Kareem Hunt. I think it's Nick Chubb's job, but the flip side to that is I think he's got strong candidates to put into the flex that can still get him a lot of good points. Jarvis Landry, Juju Smith-Schuster. I think Kenyon Drake's an interesting one. I love the Elijah Moore pick. I've heard really good things. I think he's a little bit banged up, unfortunately, but could be an interesting pick there. So, I agree with you. I think he's got some pretty solid guys in there. It'll just be if Miles Sanders can consistently produce, if the Eagles offense can just, be consistent, I think that'll help him a lot.
Right.
And then, like I said, Kareem Hunt, you just don't know, but he's got really good options to flip in there to replace him. So it's not like it's a famine there either.
Okay, we're moving to the top tier of the league here. I would include Servos in that top tier. No offense, Servos, I'm including you, the top tier. Let's move on to the former champion, two-time champion, before you became two-time champion, Abalash Reddy. This is a team that I'm actually not too high on, which kind of makes me a little anxious because usually when I don't think Abby's going to do well, he does. When I think he's going to do well, he doesn't. Yahoo gave him a C. I'm going to give him a C-. His quarterbacks, Tannehill, COVID, Burrow, potentially good, a lot of toss up there, but Devonte Adams is obviously the number one receiver taken in all drafts. I'm questionable on Amari Cooper, though. I do like the Nick Chubb pick there, but Myles Gaskin, that Miami backfield is going to be a nightmare. It's going to be the hot hand. I don't like it at all. But there's some good defensive picks, but I'm going to give Abby, I'll give him a C. What do you give him?
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I think Dallas Goedert's a great pick. Another guy I was eyeing on the wraparound. DJ Moore's the number one in Carolina. I think he's a lot more diverse than anyone else on that roster receiver-wise. So I think he's a strong pick. About Devonte Adams. Amari Cooper, Dallas is so jam-packed with talent that I think, he is the number one there. CeeDee Lamb is pushing him, but Amari Cooper is number one. Nick Chubb, obviously, we just talked about. Just depends how consistent, whether they can just give him the ball and let him do his thing, or if they just have to start chucking it around a little bit. I think he's versatile. He can catch passes out of the backfield, but it's just, for some reason, the Browns offense just stinks sometimes. Just can't really control that. Ryan Tannehill, I think, is really consistent. I picked him up last year, and I played him in some big playoff games where he did really well. I think having Julio Jones is going to help him a lot, because A.J. Brown was the only guy didn't really do a whole lot while he was there. But I think those two guys, plus obviously Derrick Henry, I think Tannehill's a really solid pickup as long as they don't get stagnant on offense. Outside of that, the bench is a little scarce. We'll have to see what A. Green can do. Maybe he can be that secondary guy to DeAndre Hopkins, in Arizona. And then Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, who knows who's going to take the starting role? I don't know. Myles Gaskin is an interesting pick. I think he was the number one guy before he got hurt, and then was just next man up in Miami. So we'll be interesting to see if Myles Gaskin can retain that role. If he can, it's a great pick. If it's a rotation, maybe not as good of one, but I think they'll give him the chance to come back, because I think he played really, really well while he was a starter. So I think C+ is good, just because Dallas Goedert's good, but the Eagles' offense is inconsistent.
Yep.
Nick Chubb is good, but the Browns' offense can be inconsistent. Myles Gaskin is good, but who knows what's really happening. So it's just like the players are good, but obviously team element, hopefully it comes together to allow them to shine. But yeah, I would say C+ just because of those factors.
Got it. Now we're moving on to the fourth place team last year. Number one all year, the number one scoring offense all year that wound up in fourth place. I'm, of course, talking about Party Like a Gronk Star. My team got a B from Yahoo. And I actually think it's a pretty fair grade. I'm going to agree with Yahoo. I don't usually agree with their draft grades, but I'm going to agree with this one. Obviously, coming out with the number one pick, taking Travis Kelce. Tight end's a huge position in this league, and he's the biggest and the best. So that was a no-brainer for me, especially with the depth at wide receiver this year. Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, I think that's a great combo. Now the injury bug for once actually benefited me, as the starting running backs, Darrell Henderson and James Robinson, all of a sudden thrusted into the starting role. And those were late picks. I waited for running backs, and it paid off. Will that help? We shall see. But as right now, I see my only weakness on offense is in the flex position. I don't like the flex. That's going to be a constant rotation. I think that's really where I'm going to struggle to try to find a person to plug in there. But I give myself a B. What do you think, Champ?
I think I'll say B-. But I would say overall a strong draft. You are very fortunate that Cam Akers and Travis Etienne went down for good this year. So those two picks are going to work out for you. I think Darrell Henderson's been hit with the injury bug a little bit last year, so can he stay healthy with that? I think Jamal Williams is a good potential pick. I think I heard that, he could potentially work in a lot in Detroit. DeAndre Swift is obviously the other guy there. Lamar Jackson, as long as he's continuing to run the ball into the end zone, and the Ravens offense can stay in their rhythm, it's good. I feel like sometimes he just get out and he just gets caught off guard, but obviously he's so dynamic, he'll make up for it. Travis Kelce is a great pick. Talked about tight ends already. He's the best one. You need a consistent scorer in that position, and you obviously got the best one. Yeah, and I think I agree with your assessment with the flex. Chase Claypool, very feast or famine. 4 touchdowns or 1 catch. Just really depends on the Ben Roethlisberger and who he's feeling like throwing to that day. So bench-wise, I think you've got a lot of handcuffs like Tony Pollard. And Leonard Fournette. You don't really know, but it's good to have them. Mecole Hardman. With the Chiefs, you have Travis Kelce, so I don't know if having another Chief is worth it. But I think the names on your team are pretty solid, but hopefully no one gets hurt this year for you, and everyone can be consistent. So that's my assessment.
Okay. Now we're moving to the last three teams here. Thank you for sticking around. If you're still watching this video. Let's go to John Dahlgren's team. He finished third last year, the Clock Gobblers. He was there at the draft, joined us all the way from San Diego. Yahoo gave him the best grade. They gave him an A. I don't know if anybody – I thought this was a pretty good draft. I don't know if anybody was really that A-worthy this year. You might think your team was, of course. But I'm going to give Dahlgren a B+. I think an A was too high. Not even an A-. I'm going to give him a B+ just because, he did get Russell Wilson, and it was so frustrating with Russell Wilson. He was either the number one quarterback for whatever week, and then he was like out of the top 15. Just Pete Carroll, I want to murder him because of that. TJ Hawkinson, that could be a sleeper pick at tight end. Mike Davis, he's the starting running back. That's his flex position. And will Saquon Barkley be the same? So with his team too, there's a lot of question marks other than I love Calvin Ridley. That's who I wanted. There's going to be plenty of throwing because the Falcons are going to be behind a lot. So I give him a B+. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a B is a good grade. I think, looking at can Saquon Barkley be the type of guy that he was before injury? I mean, my guess is yes, but that doesn't change the Giants' offense and how terrible they are. So I would need to see more with him or with the Giants to see how well Saquon does. I know he's been taking his time. He wants to be 100%. So we'll see when he actually gets back in. Chris Carson is a very interesting selection. Seattle has emphasized pounding the ball on the ground, and Chris Carson will eat up a lot of yards, but for whatever reason, he doesn't find the end zone that much. I've had him before, and so 120-yard game is awesome, but when you don't reach the end zone, 12 points is not all that good. So, excuse me. We'll just have to kind of see. I think Russell Wilson's good, better than, obviously he had his up and downs with the Seattle offense. Obviously had its ups and downs. Calvin Ridley's great. Chris Godwin, it's just a matter of can he get the target selection. Tom Brady's got a lot of options down there. I think it's pretty solid because he can get open. He's a speedy threat. Again, TJ Hawkinson with Jared Goff. We'll just have to see how Jared Goff does, really. I think TJ Hawkinson would be better off with Stafford, but we'll just have to see what kind of rapport they have together. And then I think Mike Davis showed what he could do in Carolina, so interested to see what he can do in Atlanta. I think the bench looks really strong for him here. I think Brandon Cooks is an interesting pick. I'm not really sure who's going to throw him the ball, but still a dynamic playmaker. Sonny Michel being traded to Los Angeles because Darrell Henderson's been a little bit banged up. And then the biggest thing is, can Michael Thomas, he took a flyer on him week 6, week 7, when he comes back, if he can be the Michael Thomas we know, will he be the same without Drew Brees? He's a pretty big target with rival hands, so I don't think Jameis can really mess that up. But it is Jameis, so we'll have to see on that. Just because it's so potential heavy, it's a B- for me. The names look good. Obviously, if they return to form, if they can get their shares, it'll be great. But if anything, for whatever reason, is off, this team could really struggle if that's the case. Just because the players are great, but if the teams struggle or the teams get out of whack, like Chris Carson's not a backfield back that catches a lot of passes. Saquon Barkley, if the Giants are just absolute garbage, what is he going to be able to do? Does Chris Godwin pop off, or is Mike Evans still a show? You just don't really know. With Gronk there and Antonio Brown, there's so many options there. And then TJ Hawkinson, can Jared Goff be better than just the roll to your right quarterback and check it down guy? So a lot of potential. It could be really good, but again, it could be sketchy just based on what the teams are.
Okay. Now we're going to have to do these last two teams really fast because now both of my kids are up from their nap. Okay. You ready for this? We're going to go to Joe. We're going to do the last two teams were in the championship last year.
All right,
2020, he got a B grade. I think he got a B grade as well. I'll agree with Yahoo. Joe usually drafts running back heavy and always grabs a best running backs. I think this year he went wide receiver heavy and got some really good running backs, obviously with Hopkins and CeeDee Lamb, and Dak is back. We don't know how that's going to turn out, but I give him a B. What do you think, Austin?
I agree. Dak is back. That'll be really good. CeeDee Lamb's going to be interesting just because I think he's the number one in New York, but we'll just have to see how Zach Wilson does.
Yeah.
Outside of the preseason. And then, obviously Aaron Jones, I think, was great last year. I think he'll be good again this year. So no worries there. I think his bench is interesting. Gronk, Devonte Smith, Damian Harris, Kenny Golladay, a lot of guys that can step up and be utilized. A matter of if they are effectively or not. So I would say like a B-. Just from knowing from experience, he's got a really strong back in Aaron Jones, but Josh Jacobs is just like, it didn't really cut it for me. I'm pretty sure at some point, I think I started him every week, but gosh, sometimes it wasn't always the best play. I think he's going to have to watch matchups with them and see how he does, evaluate him. And he always, for whatever reason, plays hurt. He's always hurt, but he's always playing. And then he gets red zone carries taken away. And it's weird. It's a weird situation, I think, in Las Vegas for him.
All right. Last team, the defending champion, back-to-back champion, Austin Stoll, got a C- from Yahoo. And all the buzz in the draft room was that first pick of yours with Jonathan Taylor from the Colts. You must know something that I don't, because
Yahoo hates me.
I think Jonathan Taylor is just not going to do as well as he did last year. And it's for a number of reasons. It's not just the bad offensive line now with the Colts with all the injuries and everything. I don't know. I don't think he's going to be up to snuff like he was last year. What I do like about your team, I love the quarterbacks. Thought Stafford and having Trey Lance there as a backup was great late. I don't like the wide receivers. I think I know Cooper Kupp's the slot guy, and he's going to rely on getting a lot of targets. But I do like Najee Harris. You were able to get him, and you were able to get Darren Waller in the 4th round, which I didn't think would happen. I thought he'd go at least 3rd round. And Marvin Jones is probably going to be Trevor Lawrence's favorite target in Jacksonville. So I'm not going to give you a C-, but I'm going to give you a C+. How do you evaluate your draft, Mr. Champion? What?
On myself, I'm going to say a B, maybe a B-.
Okay.
I with what I did and what I targeted early was running back and tight end because that was such an issue. And I think I was able to make up the wide receiver. While Stephon Diggs carried me, I had question marks at wide receiver too, and I was able to just intermittently fill that slot. I think Cooper Kupp and Julio Jones are two really strong pairing for me. I love my running backs. I think they're every down back noise, despite the whatever question marks people might have about Jonathan Taylor. I think the Colts are going to emphasize running the ball to help protect Carson Wentz or whoever is going to play quarterback. And I think Jonathan Taylor is going to be an integral part in, moving into, I believe it's his 2nd year. From what he did last year, he was a rookie. He played consistently while he had some games where he lost some carries. I think the type of player he is, he's just going to improve. And I don't think the Colts line is all that terrible. Obviously with not Zach Martin, Quentin Nelson gets compared to Zach Martin a lot. We'll just have to see about that. But I think Jonathan Taylor is versatile enough to make it happen. Najee Harris is going to be the air down guy. We already know what Darren Waller can do. DJ Chark, broken hand. Marvin Jones, to your point, I think it's going to be good. And I think Matthew Stafford's going to elevate everybody in the Rams. I think Gus Edwards, benefactor of the J.K. Dobbins injury. We'll just have to see. He's not a pass catcher, but we might have to, if they get roll on the ground, one in Seattle. So I do have a nice backup plan. And I think Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle, as the season goes on, be able to hold on to them. And, if I'm struggling at wide receiver, I've got a lot of different options to plug and play. I feel very balanced, a little more balanced than I did last year. I thought there's certainly question marks, which I did end up having to confirm at tight end with Ertz not being that great, and my running backs were really tough. So I'm happy with my team. I think it's a little bit better than Yahoo is giving it. I think it's consistent. I think the teams are consistent, or if they're inconsistent, they are without a doubt proven to be like the targets, like Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs versus Darren Waller. Like Darren Waller is always going to be that guy. He always is versus Josh Jacobs. Not like that. So that's my thinking. And I think my bench is interesting. Trey Lance could be interesting if he plays. And then obviously homer pick Rondell Moore. I don't expect much. I just like having him on the team.
Nice. Okay. And listen, who's on the left side of the Colts' line? There's nobody. They don't have anyone on the left side of the line. They're all dead. They're just gonna. All defenses are going to stack the box on the right side, put all 11 on the right side, because that's the only area that the Colts are ever going to be doing anything on offense, unless they get Fisher back healthy, hopefully. But it'll be very interesting to see. Last question for you, Mr. Stoll. Out of all these teams, which one are you most worried about taking your championship and forting three-time championship run?
I would say the team that I'm the most afraid of would probably be I would say the clock. I think talked about it earlier. The potential on this team is really, really high. If they click, if they fire on all cylinders, his offense, his point scoring last year was immensely potent, and I helped that. I made a trade with him. I sent him Chris Godwin and another piece for Todd Gurley, who didn't really amount to much for me. But if this team fires on all cylinders, or even at 3/4, honestly, it could be deadly. It just really depends on how the season pans out, but I think he's pretty balanced throughout, and he's got really, really strong starters. So I think he'll be one to watch again. If I have to, I did beat him. So I was gonna say I was a little afraid of him in the playoffs, but I ended up beating him. So it doesn't matter. But I think just the potential wise, I just think the question marks are easier here versus other places, I think.
Okay. Fair assessment. As always, thank you for your in-depth analysis, Mr. Stoll. Good luck to you this season. Thank you for coming on, and let's see how this season shakes out and see if you called any doozies like the Allen Robinson prediction that we'll see here shortly. But thank you, Mr. Stoll, for joining us. Good luck this year.
Thank you. You too. Hope you're in it.
Yeah.
My gosh.
It just
this video's going to be unwatchable. This video is going to be unwatchable. Probably should have just recorded the audio separately, like on our own, and then I could have just sent you the audio file for me.
Yeah. Metronet told me they're having.
Too late now.
Metronet told me they're having issues. So good stuff. All right, thank you, Austin. I appreciate it.
There we go. The champ coming out hot, giving out the grades. What a great draft. What a great season we have ahead of us. Can't wait. And we will see you next week for the first edition of LEG TV. See you next time.